Hey everyone, it's me, Sina Grace. Today I'm going to be drawing Punk Rock Storm for you, and I hope you dig it. So, here we go! I always tend to start with the head, and then I create a little sort of like skeleton with my blue pencil just to get a rough sense of things where I'm gonna kind of end up landing. This is a non-photo blue pencil, which is great for scanning your artwork and being able to have a lot of lines on the page but sort of not have them show up in the final scan. I picked 80s Storm because I wanted to do a rad character for y'all, and I was super nervous about drawing in front of with a camera on me. And I just thought, okay, well, I don't want to get lost in getting all the details of the costume right. So I thought, I'll stick with my comfort zone. I'm living for a nice like leather jacket moment, leather vest moment in Storm's case. I'm a huge lover of fashion and style and the 80s punk scene. But yeah, and I don't know. And then it's Storm. So kind of gets to be everything. Fashion, style, badass ladies, and superheroes. So then once I get the blue pencils done, I go in and start adding flesh with my mechanical pencil and really start to like gauge where I'm gonna like put these final ink lines. I didn't use blue pencils when I first started out, but I saw Lionel Francis Yu, who is currently drawing Captain America at Marvel, on his website. He said he loved it because, he could make a mistake on the blue pencil, or he could make a really good decision and try something different when he was working with, a lead pencil. And if it didn't work, he could just come back to the blue. And there's a lot to learn from that, I think. One of the things that I really kind of dread getting to whenever I'm illustrating is usually like the backgrounds and the perspective. I think my blind spots are I really don't love to draw like cars and machines, but I've at least started hunting down projects that match my skill set, so that way you don't want to see me draw Superman fighting a bunch of robots, because that's just not me. But I can draw a really cool punk rock Storm with lightning bolts coming out of her fingertips eventually. Iceman was a book I didn't even know I was meant to write until the editor hit me up and was like, hey, we're going to be rebooting the X-Men line, and we have room in our calendar for an Iceman book. This is what happened to him. He just came out in the Brian Michael Bendis run, and we didn't really do anything with it. Like, what would you do? And kind of just went with my gut and said, like, oh, it should be this. And then, cut to like a few weeks later, he starts talking to me proactively about, it being a series, and I'm like, oh, that was the audition. Oh. But yeah, so Iceman came out last June, and it did only okay in single issues, and so Marvel kind of told me like, all right, we're gonna give this 11, wrap up the story in a really meaningful way, and I was like, okay, no big deal, can do. And then a funny thing happened. The series did really well in the book market, talking like Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. The collected edition both volumes of the collected editions were selling really well in comic book stores too. And the cool folks at Marvel were like, hey, would you have any interest in continuing Bobby Drake's story? And I was like, heck yes. So it's so cool, and I'm really happy. And X-Men fans are the nicest people you'll ever meet. Although maybe, I don't know, I feel like maybe there are some other fans. Like, I wonder if a Spider-Man fan is really nice. They're probably nice too. When I was in elementary school, I would draw like my classmates as members of Generation X and put them in sort of like iconic, you know, red and gold outfit. I'd go to comic conventions and I'd read every interview that any comic artist I liked would do. And then in high school, I interned at Top Cow Productions. They made the comic book that would become that movie, Wanted, Witchblade, Darkness, etc., etc. And I was an editorial intern there. And then from there, I was like self-publishing comic books. I was making zines. I was learning how to exhibit at comic conventions. I apprenticed under a comic artist, Howard Chaykin. And finally, I'd illustrated a kid's book, and I was doing The Little Depressed Boy when it was a webcomic. But it really only started coming together after working at Skybound for Kirkman for a little while and telling myself, like, I just want to be making these things. I don't want to edit these comics. I don't want to I don't want to do it for anybody else besides myself. And I made the plunge. When I was coming up, I was really into, you know, that Top Cow house style. Like, I was a big Mark Silvestri and Michael Turner fan, which you wouldn't necessarily know looking at my artwork. But then I started working at a comic store, and that really opened my eyes up to a bunch of like indie people. I was getting hardcore into Daniel Clowes. That was right when Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi came out, and I'm half Persian, so that was rad to see someone talk about my culture. But then I was always like a Spider-Man fan, and I was always an X-Men fan, so of course I was a huge Jack Kirby buff. And then I also just like started looking up and researching just like American illustrators and sort of got into the history of illustration. I love Edward Gorey, I love Chaz Adams, I also love a lot of like, you know, cartoon art, so to speak. I'm just going in and adding flesh and sort of buying time for the areas that I put black ink on, letting it dry. Usually a smart comic artist or a smart artist who's working with the left hand, they start up here and they move down this way. That's what Charlie Adlard, artist of The Walking Dead, does. But I am a little too ADD for that. I kind of need to go where I want to go in terms of drawing these things, and sort of like if your wrist knows what it wants to draw, like it's like, oh, I really want to draw this hand right now, you kind of got to let your wrist do it. A character I super love in terms of drawing them, Selena Kyle, Catwoman. Like, she just like, she's all about body language, she is all about attitude, and I really dig her a lot. A character that I would love to draw professionally, Neil Gaiman's Death. She's such a captivating, cool lady. And once again, it's a character-driven book about the people, not about, you know, not about the cars they drive and the buildings they blow up. It's funny, this is maybe the first time I've drawn on paper in like a week. I've had to start drawing digital lately because I think when you're on deadline and you need to redraw the Yellow Ranger's helmet, it's just so much more convenient to do it on the iPad Procreate app. Drawing digitally allows risks to be taken. I'm definitely working with sort of different tools in the app to kind of even see what I like and what will expand my style in the right direction. So I'm adding some finishing touches, doing Storm's hair. Then after this, I'm gonna kind of look around the drawing and see what I want to sort of fix up. I might add a little white ink to create some additional bits of texture and depth and punk rockiness. So I'm just dabbing a little ink on my thumb to kind of like create a little bit of safe texture. I'm scared. I don't want to like mess it up, but I do want to like punk it out a little bit. These whiteout pens that you can get at any grocery store tend to be kind of like every comic artist's secret tool. All right, now I'm gonna sign it with a little heart. So this is my 80s punk rock storm. Thanks so much for watching.